Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Gopi Jana Ballava Giribaradhare Gopi Jana Ballava Giribaradhare Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachare Yamunatira Vanachare Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Gopi Jana Ballava Giribaradhare Gopi Jana Ballava Giribaradhare Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachare Yamunatira Vanachare Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Mishpad, Paramahangs, Paramajacharis, Tadasishamad. His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki, ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki, Grantaraj Sri Caitanya caritamrta Ki, Shishi Radha Radhanath Ki, Sri Giri Govardhan Ki, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu Ki, Sankirtan Yagya Ki, Go Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Jai Jai Sri Caitanya Jai Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Jai Sri Caitanya Jai Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Jai Sri Caitanya Jai Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So devotees, today we've been asked to read Sri Caitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, Chapter 1, titled The Spiritual Masters, verses 48 and 49. This is verse 48 on the screen. Naivo payanti apachitim Kavayas Tavesha Brahmayushapi Kritam Riddha Muddha Smaranta Yo Antar Bahis Tano Britam Ashubham Vidunvan Acharya Chaitya Vapusha Swagatim Vyanakti Naivo Payantya Pachitim Kavayastavesha Brahma Yushapi Kritam Riddha Muddha Smaranta Yontar Bahistanu Britam Ashubham Vidunvan Acharya Chaitya Vapusha Swagatim Vyanakti Naivo Payantya Pachitim Kavayastavesha Brahma Yushapi Kritam Riddha Muddha Smaranta Yontar bahisthanubritam ashubham vidunvan. Acharya checha vapusha swagatim vyanakti. Naivo payantya pachitim kavayastavesha. Brahma yushapi kritam rida mudasmaranta. Yontar bahisthanubritam ashubham vidunvan. Acharya checha vapusha swagatim vyanakti. Naeva, not at all, upayante, are able to express apachitim, their gratitude, kavaya, learned devotees, tava, your, isha, O Lord, Brahma Ayusha, with a lifetime equal to Lord Brahma's. Api, in spite of, kritam, magnanimous work, rida, increased, muda, joy, smaranta, remembering, ya, who, anta, within, bahi, outside, tanubritam, of those who are embodied, asubham, misfortune, vidunvan, dissipating, acharya, of the spiritual master, chaitya, of the supersoul, vapusha, by the forms, swa, own, gatim, path, vyanakti, shows. Translation: O my Lord, transcendental poets and experts in spiritual science could not fully express their indebtedness to you even if they were endowed with the prolonged life of Brahma. For you appear in two features, externally as the Acharya and internally as the Supersoul, to deliver the embodied living being by directing him how to come to you. And the very short purport here, this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 11:29-6 was spoken by Sri Uddhava after he heard from Sri Krishna all necessary instructions about yoga. And we read verse 49 also. Tesham sadati yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yenamam upayanti te. Translation: to those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. Purport: this verse of the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, verse 10, clearly states how Govinda Dev instructs his bona fide devotee. The Lord declares that by enlightenment in theistic knowledge, he awards attachment for him to those who constantly engage in his transcendental loving service. This awakening of divine consciousness enthralls a devotee who thus relishes his eternal transcendental mellow. Such an awakening is awarded only to those convinced by devotional service about the transcendental nature of the personality of Godhead. They know that the supreme truth, the all-spiritual and all-powerful person, is one without a second and has fully transcendental senses. He is the fountainhead of all emanations. Such pure devotees, always merged in knowledge of Krishna and absorbed in Krishna consciousness, exchange thoughts and realizations as great scientists exchange their views and discuss the results of their research in scientific academies. Such exchanges of thoughts in regard to Krishna give pleasure to the Lord, who therefore favors such devotees with all enlightenment. I'll just read the translations again to both these verses. 48. O my Lord, transcendental poets and experts in spiritual science could not fully express their indebtedness to you, even if they were endowed with the prolonged lifetime of Brahma. For you appear in two features, externally as the Acharya and internally as the Supersoul, to deliver the embodied living being by directing him how to come to you. And 49, to those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschitya Deshatarane Vanchakalpaturubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Yes, so we were asked to read these two verses and purports and say some words about them. The first verse is, Prabhupada mentions actually, it is Uddhava speaking to Lord Krishna in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. the 11th canto is to quite a substantial extent, not totally, but to a very significant extent, it is what we call the Uddhava Gita. Means the song or what the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, spoke to Uddhava. Spoke, or yes, you can just say spoke because it's really like that. And it is compared to Bhagavad Gita. We're all familiar with Bhagavad Gita, and I'm sure all of us have heard many classes on different verses from Bhagavad Gita. Maybe some of you have taken seminars to go through Bhagavad Gita systematically. If you haven't, I would very strongly recommend you do, because it's such an essential text for us. But at the same time, it's not easy. Someone was telling me just day before yesterday on Friday that they've got a Bhagavad Gita and they just really appreciate Krishna and Krishna consciousness, and for many years it's been like that. But when they try to read Bhagavad Gita, they find it difficult because it's a fact. It is complex, somewhat complex, and different sort of technical terminologies are there, and different types of practices are described. So therefore, it's not unusual that people, even devotees, what to speak of the people in general, they struggle, at least to some degree, or many really struggle, to understand and to follow the discussion between Lord Krishna and Arjuna. Yes, so anyway, Bhagavad Gita is there. We're all somewhat familiar with Bhagavad Gita. But now here, this is part of Uddhava Gita. And it is Lord Krishna himself, again, speaking over a number of chapters. I forget exactly how many, but it's really quite an extensive thing, the Uddhava Gita. It's not just a chapter or two or even 10. It's quite a bit more than that. Speaking to Uddhava, who was his very close associate, particularly in Mathura and most particularly in Dwarika. And anyway, Uddhava, that discussion takes place because Uddhava has found the Lord. The Lord is just about to depart from this world, back to Goloka Vrindavan. Just immediately following the great battle, not the battle of Kurukshetra from Bhagavad Gita, but the great battle at Prabhasa Kshetra. Yes, the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, wanted to conclude his pastimes, but also the pastimes of the devotees who had descended with him, particularly to be there with him in Dwarika mainly, actually, members of the Yadu dynasty. With the devotees of Vrindavan, there's a different situation, but that's a different story. So here he wanted to depart himself and Lord Balaram, but he also wanted all his family members to depart. Sri Radha Radhanath, Sri Giri Govardhan, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. Yes, so there was this great battle then, it's described in the 11th canto, this great battle just amongst the members of his family. I mean, immediate family, not like Bhagavad Gita, the Battle of Kurukshetra, where they're also family members, but they're not like very completely immediate. They're cousins and uncles and people like that, and not so much brothers and, really, I mean, they're pretty direct, but not quite as intimate. So anyway, Lord Krishna, seeing that these family members had become extremely powerful, and there was no need, because all the demons had been killed, and the righteous king Maharaj Yudhisthira, along with his brothers, but Yudhisthira particularly, had been installed on the throne. So everything, his mission was accomplished, basically. But now he's left with this problem of what to do with his immediate family members, and because they become kind of brutal. So what happened exactly is that, it's interesting. You may be, I imagine some or many of you would be familiar with the situation just before the Battle of Kurukshetra, when Lord Krishna gave, it must have been Yudhisthira, maybe it was Arjuna, but perhaps I think probably more Yudhisthira, who was the head of his side. Lord Krishna gave him the choice that the battle's going to happen just in the next days, so I will not fight, but my army, Krishna's army, and that was really a very, very powerful army. These same people, relatives I've just been mentioning as being very close to him, but very powerful, that I will not fight, but my army will fight with whoever. He told actually Yudhisthira and Duryodhana, who was the head of the other side, whoever sees me first tomorrow morning can choose. Either I will be on your side and I won't fight, or my army will be on your side and they will fight. Whoever sees me first tomorrow morning can choose. So Yudhisthira and Duryodhana came to Lord Krishna's tent, because they're already on the battlefield just gearing up. So Maharaj Yudhisthira and Duryodhana came to his tent, and Krishna was still sleeping, transcendentally, of course. Whoever's going to see him first will get the choice. So Duryodhana, thinking, I really want to make sure that I'm the first, he positioned himself right next to Krishna, right next to Krishna's, like his chest, so Krishna's chest. So Krishna, he thought, would just, Krishna was sleeping on his back. Sleeping positions, that's another discussion. But Krishna was sleeping on his back, and Duryodhana thought, I'll be right there within, 20, 30 centimeters, and surely he'll see me. But the humble Yudhisthira thought, this is my Lord. I must stand at his feet. So he did. And then Lord Krishna, he woke up, but he's lying on his back. So when he woke up, he raised his head straight forward and looked down his body, and there was Yudhisthira. He didn't wake up and then look to the side, which Duryodhana had been hoping for. And so Yudhisthira got the first choice. And Duryodhana thought, oh no, Oh no, obviously Yudhisthira will choose the army, all of them who will fight, rather than just Krishna who's not going to fight at all. But Yudhisthira immediately said, my Lord, I want you on my side, even if you don't fight. And Duryodhana thought, it is my lucky day. And he got the army. So anyway, then the battle happened. And Krishna's army fought, you could say, against Krishna. Because they're very sort of dutiful types of people. And, whatever's the situation, if it's my duty, that's it. I just do it. So they fought on the opposing side. And of course, they lost. The opposing side lost. And the side of Yudhisthira and Arjuna and Bhima, the side of the Pandavas won. So, but in terms of what happened at Prabhas, where this verse was spoken, the first of these two verses, by Uddhava to Krishna, so that on the plea or on the sort of with the idea that let us do some demigod worship and let us do it down at Prabhas because it's a sacred place where they do demigod worship. So they all went down there. But then an argument arose between those members of the family who were members of Krishna's army and who had fought against, in principle against Krishna, but certainly against the Pandavas, and lost. So the other family members who were not part of the army and who were on Krishna's side and the Pandavas' side, they started ridiculing those who had been in Krishna's army and fought on the other side and lost. And, these are Kshatriyas. And, actually the fact is they're sort of, by the Lord's arrangement, they're all in Maya. So they really started arguing, look at you fools. You fought against Krishna, against the Pandavas. Just severe criticism. And so they started fighting. And, it's a long story. We could just do a whole thing just about that. And they all died. Basically every last one of them, except Uddhava. Uddhava didn't die. And Krishna, of course, didn't die. And Balaram didn't die. But everyone else did. Of course, Yudhisthira was not there. He was ruling from Hastinapur. So he wasn't involved in this whole altercation, etc. But everybody else was, the immediate family members of Krishna, except for Uddhava. And so then Krishna, after this had all happened, just immediately after, he went and sat with his back against a tree. And again, it's a bit of a long story, but Uddhava came. And then Krishna instructed Uddhava in the Uddhava Gita, which that verse that we read, the first verse, is a part of. Yes, so that's just a bit of background, but in terms of the real message, such an important message, Uddhava is glorifying, appreciating the Lord and saying how, well, he and so many others feel very grateful to Lord Krishna because he manifests himself in two very specific forms, both of which help the devotees. Help, they actually give essential help, absolutely essential help to the devotees, who are very grateful for that help. So, as Uddhava said, first of all he mentioned, you manifest yourself as the Acharya, which in a broad sense means just the spiritual master, any bona fide spiritual master. But then secondly, as the supersoul, who's within and gives direction from within. And the Acharya mentioned first, who gives direction externally as an independent person, a separate person, but gives direction. Do this, don't do that, and all types of essential instructions which are, well, they're essential for making progress in Krishna consciousness and ultimately going back to Godhead. Yes, and then the supersoul who acts from within, and the second verse that we just read, Bhagavad Gita chapter 10 verse, is speaking about that, how Krishna helps from within as the supersoul. It's a very famous verse and wonderful verse. Tesham sadhata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvikam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. So the supersoul, Krishna as the supersoul, he does give instructions through the heart, sometimes sort of directly, in the sense of that some ideas appear in the mind, some inspiration comes from within that, oh, I should do this or that, or not do this or that. These types of instructions come from the supersoul, sometimes, from time to time. And on the basis of these instructions, then just as with the instructions of the external spiritual master who's interacting with you as a separate person, so the supersoul gives valuable instructions which really help you to make progress. So this is the point here, that there are these two manifestations which, of course, the supersoul is just directly Krishna himself. The spiritual master is a type of manifestation of Krishna. Of course, a real bona fide spiritual master is especially empowered by Krishna to act, to serve as spiritual master. Just like whatever service you may be given through the bona fide systems, if it's really your prescribed duty, and it's not just somebody's mental concoction about what you should possibly do, which won't help much or won't help at all. But if you're engaged in some really valid service, which is your service coming in the authorized way, then the spiritual master is empowered. Well, you, first of all, you get empowerment and inspiration from the super soul, how to do the service nicely. That's there. But then the spiritual master is also empowered to instruct you in that service so that you can do it very nicely and make real progress in Krishna consciousness by executing the service nicely on the basis of the instructions of the spiritual master. This is how Krishna consciousness works, even in the broad sense, that whatever your service is, even if it's a service like, there you see, that's Radhe Shyam Das Prabhu, initiated disciple of Indradyumna Maharaj. He's cleaning the temple. And you might think, oh, cleaning the temple, anyone can do that. But it's a science, actually. It's not so easy. Just wave a broom around or something like that. If you really want to do it properly. Well, actually, in the very early days of Krishna consciousness, 262nd Avenue in Manhattan, New York, Srila Prabhupada, there were some young men, mainly young men, staying in 262nd Avenue, and Prabhupada wanted them that they should keep the place clean, of course. They're living there and sleeping there. They must keep the place clean. So he came to see how they're doing as far as keeping it clean is concerned, and saw they were waving the broom around and just, in a sort of haphazard way. They were not cleaning effectively or properly. So Srila Prabhupada demonstrated how to do it. And you can read about that in Prabhupada Lilamrita and maybe in some other biographies of Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada showed them, you use 2 buckets. 2 buckets. One is for dirty water, the other is for clean water. And you don't wave something around. You actually get on your hands and knees. And Prabhupada got on his hands and knees himself and showed them how to do it with a cloth, and then get rid of the dirty water, and then pick up some clean water, and then carry on like that. And after a while, the clean water becomes a little dirty, so you change that, and you throw out the dirty water. You get the idea? How many of you clean like that? Anyway, I'll just leave that with you to think about. But Srila Prabhupada personally, he didn't just tell them, do this and do that and don't do it in some other way. He actually literally got on his hands and knees and showed them how to do it. This is the spiritual master. I mean, in a sense, it's a bit extreme to expect the spiritual master to get on his hands and knees to teach a lesson. But the disciples, those disciples, they were not very qualified at all. Just somehow or other they had got involved. So Prabhupada felt he needed to really demonstrate it the way he did. So, yes, like this. This is how it works. And the spiritual master helps by giving instructions on so many subjects, in so many ways, trying to really get through to the disciples. And the super soul also helps. Of course, one problem when it comes to the super soul is that sometimes some idea may pop into our minds, but it may not be from the super soul. It may just be the mind. So how to discern, is it the super soul actually giving me some good inspiration for my development in Krishna consciousness, or is it just the mind sort of, as it has been doing for so many lifetimes, trying to mess me up a bit? So therefore, unless it's plainly obvious it's the Supersoul, that the instruction coming is just pure Krishna consciousness, it's always a good idea to check with, at least with senior devotees, or ultimately one can even check with the spiritual master. Like, I had a dream. Well, let me give you an example. The lady is not here today. She was here yesterday. She's one of our senior lady devotees from really nice devotee family. She came roaring in to, the little car park at the back by the big open kitchen. Came roaring in one morning, it was about 8 o'clock. She came roaring in with one watermelon. She came running in and met like the temple president or head pujari and said, I had a dream. Krishna appeared and Krishna told me I have to offer him a watermelon before 9 o'clock this morning. Otherwise, I have to divorce my husband. And this is historical truth. This actually happened. Yeah, I wasn't there. I was here somewhere, but I didn't witness it directly, but I certainly heard about it. And, the whole family are really nice devotees, including the husband, who was also here yesterday. Really nice devotee, initiated devotee for years. So, the devotees immediately thought, divorce your husband. Not a good idea, not necessary. It's not like he's one of these violent types, or, you know what I mean, just really undesirable types at all. He's actually a great devotee. Very good devotee. So, divorce him. So the devotees convinced her it wasn't Krishna. It was not Krishna. It was your mind, or something to do with your mind, which gave you, some inspiration. But it was not a Krishna conscious inspiration. So anyway, don't worry. We'll offer the watermelon. But you don't worry about should you divorce your husband. And she hasn't divorced her husband, I'm happy to say. They were here yesterday together. But that was years ago. It was well before COVID. I'd have even been at least 15 years ago or more. So you've got to watch out for your mind. We have been living with our minds for how many lifetimes we don't know, but many, many lifetimes. And our minds, in a certain sense, the mind is a different living entity from us. Yeah. It's not exactly you. It's your mind, something separate from you. Although, the mind is expert at trying to disguise itself as being you. So like it's your idea. But actually, no. The mind is separate. It's your mind. So therefore, we have to be careful in regard to inspirations which come from the super soul or possibly from the mind. And you can check those inspirations. You can check them with other senior devotees also. You don't have to always go to the spiritual master for every little thing. But certainly if there's something which appears like an important inspiration which came from within, or maybe from some other devotees too, then but they're kind of a bit unusual or even a bit strange, not what you normally hear, then you must get them checked, and ultimately can be with the spiritual master. This is very not just very important, it's essential and very essential for progress in Krishna consciousness. So, yes, of the two, of course, they're both extremely important. But the external spiritual master is generally taken to be and is generally emphasized as being the more important of the two. Yes. So, and to accept a spiritual master, a bona fide spiritual master, who really is properly situated and able to give real help, proper help in Krishna consciousness, this is an essential part of Krishna consciousness, and it's a very wonderful thing. It's so essential that we see that Lord Krishna accepted a spiritual master. Lord Caitanya accepted a spiritual master. Lord Ram accepted a spiritual master. All of them, they've all accepted spiritual masters. And about Lord Krishna, it's Srila Prabhupada specifically describes how Lord Krishna really accepted, in his case, Sandipani Muni as spiritual master, because there was one special incident which is described in the 10th canto, how Sandipani Muni, the spiritual master, instructed Lord Krishna, who was in his Gurukul just as a young person, and what's his name, the Brahmin, anyway, the famous Brahmin, whose name slips me immediately. So asked them both, go out together into the forest, bring firewood. So they went. Krishna went. And what's his name? The Brahmin from Sudama. Sudama the Brahmin, right? So they both went, and Krishna went. And Krishna did not say, listen, I happen to be God, actually, and, I don't need to serve anybody. Everybody should serve me. And, I don't need anyone to tell me what to do and what not to do, because I'm God. So, if you want someone to get some wood for you, go ask someone else. I'm just here sort of patronizing you as if I'm your student, but I'm not really. I'm just doing you a favor by making it look like I'm your student. But Krishna accepted that service, and even they went out into the forest, and a big storm came, and they were stuck in the forest for the night. And Krishna, of course, he could have made the storm disappear. Something like that he could easily have done, no problem at all. He could have just immediately transported them, just like, literally like that, the ashram with all the wood. But he didn't do that, because as far as he's concerned, he is actually setting an example of how to be a disciple of a spiritual master. Yes, just like Lord Ram went to great difficulty to rescue Sita, And he didn't have to do it that way, but he wanted to show how husbands should be very responsible and protective of their wives. And Lord Caitanya, similar situation. Srila Prabhupada, well, we all know the third verse of Shikshastakam. Trinadapi sunichena tarorapi sahishnuna amanina manadena kirtanaya sadahari. It may be the best known verse of all the verses that we have, certainly one of them, that we should chant the holy names of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking ourselves lower than the straw in the street, and like that. And we should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, ready to offer respect, all respect to others. And in such a state of mind, it is possible to chant the holy names of the Lord constantly. In other states of mind which are not so humble like that, then it's not possible to constantly chant the holy names. Maybe for a while, but after a while, your mind will not allow you. So anyway, Lord Caitanya spoke that verse, and Srila Prabhupada, there is, you can find it or try to find it, it's in the Veda base, where Srila Prabhupada, well, a devotee asks Prabhupada, did Lord Caitanya really accept his spiritual master, Ishvarapuri? Did he really accept Ishvarapuri as his spiritual master, or did he just go through some official motions? Just, again, like some might think that Krishna might do with Sandipani Muni. Just officially just say, yeah, he's my spiritual master, but actually doesn't accept him like that. So what with Lord Caitanya, Prabhupada was asked the same question. Did he really accept Ishvarapuri as spiritual master? Or did you just do it officially just to say, yeah, I accepted as spiritual master? And Prabhupada says, Lord Chaitanya spoke that third verse of Shikshastakam. Trinadapi sunichena, we all know that verse. And Srila Prabhupada said, this proves that Lord Chaitanya accepted his spiritual master as spiritual master, and not just, for the sake of making a show of having a spiritual master. And Prabhupada said, because to develop such a humble consciousness, which was spoken of there by Lord Caitanya, but actually demonstrated by him also, it's not possible. It's just not possible for someone to develop such humility unless they've actually accepted someone as being in such a high position in relation to them, like spiritual master. So that's what Srila Prabhupada said about Lord Caitanya, that he actually accepted him, Ishvarapuri, as spiritual master. Not just officially or something like that. So the principles is there and demonstrated by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and with Lord Ram also, basically, same idea. And with others also, in so many cases at least, of different avatars of the Supreme Lord. So therefore, we need to follow in their footsteps and accept the shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, and then really live like that according to the instructions of the spiritual master. So these are the points being made here. And I could just mention that it's one thing to be initiated by a spiritual master, who's not Prabhupada, but Prabhupada is also there as one of your spiritual masters. He is the supreme Siksha Guru within ISKCON. So he is a spiritual master of all of us, even if we happen to have accepted initiation from one of his disciples, or even in some cases, a disciple of one of his disciples. So that connection with Prabhupada must also be there, very important, essential connection. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Any comments, questions? There's one here in the front.
Hare Krishna. Gurudev, with regards to the point of Yudhisthira choosing Krishna to be on his side, during the battle of Kurukshetra, and Duryodhana having Krishna's army, my question relates to the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, when Arjuna is describing the different personalities on the other side of the battle.
Right.
Does this mean that the Krishna's army was some of the personalities that he was describing that may not necessarily want to oppose Arjuna, but are there for their duty?
They're not amongst those who are mentioned.
Yes, I think.
But
yes.
like the leader was Satyaki. Yeah. And he actually didn't join the other side. Yeah. He was like the general of Krishna's army. But anyway, the basic point is that those people who are mentioned, some of them had connection with Krishna, like Bhishma. He was so close to the Pandavas, and for him to fight against them, in a sense, is just sort of unthinkable. How he could do that? He protected them from those people who tried to kill them in different ways. But now, he became obliged to Duryodhana. He became obliged to Duryodhana because Duryodhana was maintaining him. He was living in the palace there, so he felt obliged. And he ate the food which Duryodhana personally cooked sometimes. It may be in most families, the wife is the cook, and the husband is not the cook. Maybe washes the dishes afterwards or something. But some husbands cook. And some of them are good cooks. Yeah. So Duryodhana was a cook. He liked cooking. And so he would cook sometimes. And he certainly wouldn't offer it to the Supreme Lord. And Bhishma would eat it. And whatever is the state of consciousness of the cook, when you eat their cooking, you ingest some of their consciousness or just some of them. And that's what happened with Bhishma. And the others, anyway, they were not members of Krishna's army. But Krishna's army, now you might think that they're Krishna's army. How could they possibly fight against Krishna? But Krishna gave them that duty. And they were that sort of person. They're all, heavy Kshatriyas. That if my Lord tells me to do this, I do it. That's it. So they did. Yeah. Is that okay?
Yes, thank you, Gurudev.
Anyone else? Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.